Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining in today. I'm going to start with a little bit of a different invocation, not so much your typical Om Gyana, but it is an Om Gyana to me. This is, we'll start with a poem that was written by Rumi. And to me, this is the bedrock of today's class and the bedrock of radical personalism and our individuated practice. So it's a bit long, but trust me, it's well worth it. It's called Moses and the Shepherd. Moses heard a shepherd on the road praying, "God, where are you? I want to help you, to fix your shoes and comb your hair. I want to wash your clothes and pick the lice off. I want to bring you milk to kiss your little hands and feet when it's time for you to go to bed. I want to sweep your room and keep it neat. God, my sheep and goats are yours. All I can say, remembering you, is ah and eh." Moses couldn't stand it any longer. "Who are you talking to?" "Talking to the one who makes us and made the earth and made the sky. Don't talk about shoes and socks with God. And what's this with your little hands and feet? Such blasphemous familiarity sounds like you're chatting with your uncles. Only something that grows needs milk. Only someone with feet needs shoes, not God. Even if you meant God's human representatives, as when God said, 'I was sick and you did not visit me.' Even then, this tone would be foolish and irreverent. Use appropriate terms. Fatima is a fine name for a woman, but if you call a man Fatima, it's an insult. Body and birth language are right for us on this side of the river, but not for addressing the origin, not for Allah." The shepherd repented and tore his clothes and sighed and wandered out into the desert. A sudden revelation came then to Moses, God's voice. "You have separated me from one of my own. Did you come as a prophet to unite or to sever? I have given each being a separate and unique way of seeing and knowing and saying that knowledge. What seems wrong to you is right for him. What is poison to one is honey to someone else. Purity and impurity, sloth and diligence in worship, these mean nothing to me. I am apart from all that. Ways of worshiping are not to be ranked as better or worse than one another. Hindus do Hindu things, and Dravidian Muslims in India do what they do. It's all praise, and it's all right. It's not me that's glorified in acts of worship. It's the worshipers. I don't hear the words they say. I look inside at the humility. That broken, open lowliness is the reality, not the language. Forget phraseology. I want burning, burning. Be friends with your burning. Burn up your thinking and your forms of expression. Moses, those who pay attention to ways of behaving and speaking are one sort. Lovers who burn are another. Don't impose a property tax on a burnt-out village. Don't scold the lover. The wrong way he takes is better than 100 right ways. Inside the Kaaba, it doesn't matter which direction you point your prayer rug. The ocean diver doesn't need snowshoes. The love religion has no code or doctrine, only God. So the ruby has nothing engraved on it. It doesn't need markings. God began speaking deeper mysteries to Moses, visions and words which cannot be recorded here, poured into and through him. He left himself and came back. He went to eternity and came back here. Many times this happened. It's foolish of me to try to say this. If I did say it, it would uproot our human intelligence. It would shatter all writing pens. Moses ran after the shepherd. He followed the bewildered footprints in one place, moving straight like a castle across a chessboard, in another sideways like a bishop, now surging like a wave, cresting, now sliding down like a fish, with always his feet making geomancy symbols in the sand, recording his wandering state. Moses finally caught up with him. I was wrong. God has revealed to me that there are no rules for worship. Say whatever and however your loving tells you to. Your sweet blasphemy is the truest devotion. Through you, a whole world is freed. Loosen your tongue and don't worry what comes out. It's all the light of the Spirit. The shepherd replied, Moses, I've gone beyond that. You applied the whip, and my horse shied and jumped out of itself. The divine nature and my human nature came together. Bless your scolding hand and your arm. I can't say what happened. What I'm saying now is not my real condition. It can't be said. The shepherd grew quiet. When you look in a mirror, you see yourself, not the state of the mirror. The flute player puts breath into the flute. And who makes the music? Not the flute player. Whenever one speaks praise or thanksgiving to God, it's always like this dear shepherd's simplicity. When you eventually see through the veils to how things really are, you will keep saying again and again, this is certainly not like we thought it was. So there's so much in that poem. And this is our journey to find our voice through our practices. So it's in service to the reality of radical personalism that we continue this conversation today, and to everything that is required for our own individuated progress. Today we'll speak about both the magic of devotional practice, and then again, what sometimes takes the place of that magic, which can be known as magical thinking. So first, let's explore a little bit by what I mean by magic. So magic it's the means by which we can reevaluate reality. It's things that challenge the way we think things are ordered, how things are ordered, and shows us an altered way of seeing. Basically, it gives us the ability to change our angle of vision. Even, carnival kind of magic, those simple things where a magician pulls a rabbit from a hat, or, does some kind of magical act. That just kind of challenges our normality, what we have come to see as the normal order of things. And as you were saying yesterday, Yuval Kishore, in your question about laughter and humor and things. It's the wonder, the magic is the wonder of life. And when we first came to the temple, I did, and I'm suspecting that many of you felt things are very, very magical. They were so different. The smells and the food and the clothing and the colors and the deities. It really challenged our view of the world. And that was really magical to us. And so precious at the same time. We were just inspired with newness and freshness and a whole new way of seeing. And this is actually what our practice is meant to be. It is an opportunity for sacred disturbance, because it is in those moments of uncertainty when we are in the process of having our reality challenged, that a new reality can be embraced. And it's only as one gives way that we are then able to step into another. So our practice, the practices that we engage in, have the potential of doing that for us, of creating sacred disturbance in our life. It's not an ordinary thing to set aside time to chant, to do these things that we do. But when they become ordinary, when we remove the wonder, the magic, the extraordinariness from these moments, then we become what Moses was experiencing in that poem, just entrapped by the container. And we replace that experience of magic with magical thinking. And I'll hopefully address that in a bit. So what we're hoping for through our practice is again a shift in our angle of vision, to receive a new set of eyes, and not some kind of way to earn God's love, or a way to earn our way into a society or a community. It's actually the opportunity for an experience of a direct connection. And that is the magic of it. Magic refers to, again, that altered state, but it's the transformation. It's the transformation of the self that is where the magic is. So without us being vulnerable, without our willingness to show up, and our willingness to be changed, our willingness to be altered, there won't be growth. There cannot be growth. For growth to happen, we have to be willing to give up old ways of being. And this is actually what Anartha Nivritti is. It is the process of giving up these old ways. It is the willingness to confront those things within ourselves that need to go, basically those things within ourselves that need to die. And they need to die so that we can live in a new way, so that we can live in love. So for me, I can confess in this moment to all of you who have no idea who's out there, but for me, speaking publicly is probably the epitome of my terrifying moments. And last night, as I was trying to conjure something up to be able to say today, I was thinking, and this is going to be shocking, don't get freaked out, it's okay. I was just thinking, well, maybe I'll have an accident on the way to Janaki's. And I won't be able to give the class. I'll have a good, excuse. Maybe I'll even die. And then I was like, yes, something has to die for me to be able to give this class to be able to step into the flow, into the magic of what I know is held here in potential, for me to actually put aside my self-doubt, which is raging, and my fears of not being accepted, my fears of doing it wrong, my fears of being rejected, my fears that I will prove myself unlovable, I will prove myself unworthy. I have to be willing to put all of that on the line for the magic to happen. So I don't know if it is going to happen, but I'm willing. I'm willing. And I would like to be able to step out of old ways of being and into the flow of what has been given to me, of my talents and my abilities and the gifts, the generous gifts that have been given to me, that I would like to be able to share with you in response. But I hold myself back out of this self-doubt. So this gathering here, you have come for maybe a class, maybe to learn something. I've come to die here. So I thank you all for witnessing that. So whatever happens, I don't know. Yeah, so even in writing my notes last night, I tried so many times. Okay, I'm just going to make an outline. Yeah, no, I couldn't. I could not even do that. So we have very sketchy things here. I have no idea what's going to come, but I'm going to trust that something will come. And if the Lord is willing, that I will be able to say something that can touch you, that can spark a new way for you to view yourself, for you to view your practice, for you to view love of God. So I appreciate you giving me this opportunity, for me to learn how to trust, for me to be able to be vulnerable and to lay things on the line, and to experience reception on the other side that will just destroy my self-doubts. So thank you for that. It's these things that we stuff into the spaces of ourselves, into that illusion that we are separate, into the illusory isolation that we stand alone, that we're not one family, that I am not actually embedded at every moment in the continual flow and becoming of God. Anything other than that embrace truly is an illusion. And it is not until I allow myself, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, that we will experience such reception. At least for myself, I know in the back of my mind, if I hold on to anything, I will always think, well, if they knew that, then they wouldn't love me. If I showed this, then surely they would reject me. So as much as we can allow ourselves to be naked in a safe space, and definitely, at least with one other person, and definitely with God in prayer, then we can accept the fact that we are loved unconditionally. So there's two of my favorite examples from scripture that demonstrate this. And Maharaj mentioned one of them yesterday, is Arjuna. You know, think of the other one is Draupadi. So both of these, kind of think, they had their incredible moments of vulnerability where literally they gave up their dharma. For Arjuna, his dharma was his bow, right? He's a Kshatriya. That's his dharma. What did he do with it? He threw it down. He dropped it. He dropped his dharma. And Draupadi was the most chaste woman. She's clutching at her sari as she is being disrobed in the assembly. And she is willing to release that dharmic role of being the most chaste woman and to reach out to God. And that is what Arjuna did. So imagine that transformation that happened in that span of time. What was their relationship like before those moments of accepting their complete vulnerability, and the relationship with the Lord after those moments? The magic, they were the magic, basically. They became the magic. They were alchemied, as that is what is meant for us. It is not that we engage in magical acts, magical performances, but that we receive the magic. We are magicked. We are alchemied. We are transformed through our vulnerabilities. And yeah, that's the magic. And the magical thinking is to think that all I have to do is say these H's, R's, and E's, and A's, and Haris, and Krishnas, and move my fingers on a bead. I just do that a certain amount of time. And I just show up at this thing, I go to Mangal Artik, or, follow this rule and do that regulation. But without that transformation, it remains on the level of magical thinking. Another example that came to mind was when Jesus turned the water into wine. Now, it dawned on me, I don't think that the magic happened in that transformation of water to wine, but the transformation, the magic happened in the hearts of those people who witnessed that. The people who were then able to embrace their faith through experience. That was the magic, not the turning of the water into wine, but the transformed hearts of people who experienced that. So again, it's not what we do that is magical. It is the transformation of our own self that is the magic of bhakti. It is the process of transformation. And this to me becomes really clear when we think about learning how to play an instrument. Who here has like taken lessons, even in grade school as kids, to learn how to play an instrument? Yes, a few, yes. So there's so much practice involved, and it's so bloody boring. And, you just do the same thing over and over and over again. Hot cross buns. I mean, how many times have you learned hot cross buns? For those who don't know, it's a song, and everybody in school had to play it. And so, but without that practice, we would never become proficient in anything. However, if we think that that's the extent of it, that simply being able to read music and to transfer what's on a piece of paper to what's on an instrument. I used to play clarinet, that's why I was going with this. But then we are really missing the art of magic. I mean, of music and magic. So think of the difference between a person who can play music and the person who is an artist, a musical artist, who has entered into the flow of that music, like a jazz musician, and they can spontaneously change and move and adapt and bounce off of each other, their environment. They learn and they listen, compared to a person who hasn't imbibed that sense of music, who themselves have not become the music. There's a separation between playing an instrument and being the music. We are meant to be the music of our devotional life, not simply play the notes. We're meant to internalize these practices, to show up, to be present. How present is an artist in the moment of creation and the moment that they are creative? How present are they? They're so present that they have completely lost sense of themselves. They have given over to the process of that creative flow. That is magic. And we have the opportunity for that. When we substitute the transformation for the practice, then we lose out on what is available and the purpose of it. So what was once magical to us in the beginning, and it's normal also. It's very normal. And there's a place for that empty kind of repetition of practice. But we must know, even when we are in that state, that that's not the end. That's the beginning. And we are meant to internalize that, to show up in our practice and to be willing to be changed by it. It's about a relationship. And again, I go back to the musician, to that inspired musician. It's a relationship. And if he's in a band, a jazz band, it's in a relationship with other musicians. So we are meeting each other. We are meeting God in these moments of practice. It's about establishing a relationship, not simply acting, not simply performing, like when you might have been a kid and learning the instrument, and there's a performance at the end of the year, and the kids line up and they all show what they can do. But where it's not the time yet for the transformation, but for one to become that inspired musician, the transformation has to take place. And that is the internalization of the practice. And that's why we do it often. So we can forget about it. It becomes, what's it called? Muscle memory. So that we don't have to be, it just becomes part of our lives. So that we are free to actually be conscious and enter into it. That the body will do what the body does. We don't have to think about moving our fingers across the beads. That happens naturally. And the natural occurrence of that frees us to engage in the reality of being present to who is on the other side of the mantra. Who is that mantra? There's someone there. So I remember when I was taking a japa retreat with Padmanabha Maharaj, and there were a few things that's really, really stuck out. And one was when we hear the words, when we hear, though, that we should listen to the holy name, right? When we're chanting japa, we're just hear the holy name, just hear the holy name. I always thought that meant hear myself saying the holy name. Listen to myself, to the words that are coming out of my mouth. No. That's not what that's about. It's about listening to the holy name. What is he saying? Not listening to me pronounce his names. What is he saying? Listen to the holy name. Hear the holy name. He's there. The other thing is when we call the holy name, it's not like we're calling someone that is far away and we're calling their name and eventually they'll get here. They're coming. Just wait a minute. They'll be right here. No. There's no difference between God and his name. When we say Krishna, we're not calling him from somewhere else. We're invoking his presence. He is present right then. And if we don't experience that reality, if we don't, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, see our house as Vaikuntha, what's in the way? Why don't we? It's all of those things that we stuff in the illusion that we are separated. The filters that we have built since time immemorial. Have you thought of how long you have existed? How long we have been in the material world? Not a really long time. Not a super long time. Not a long time that I can't even imagine. We have been in the material world as long as Krishna has existed. Since forever. So the fact that we are still blind to certain things The fact that we have mountains of stuff that we have drug with us, it's not surprising. It's a process. We have entered the process. We have begun. We have been initiated. We have started the process of this anartha nivriti. Getting rid of things that at one time served us and served us well. They were our shields. They were our support. They protected us. They defended us. And they are no longer necessary. We have a new world. We have a new vision. We have a new self that we are becoming. We are who we are becoming. And the cleansing process, it's there, but it doesn't simply happen magically through magical thinking. It is magic, but we actually have to engage in it. We have to show up in our vulnerability, in our willingness to be changed, in our willingness to be humiliated, in our willingness to give up whatever it is, to die whatever needs to die. So again, we can be born in love. So these are generally requires holy shifts. They could be big, they can be little. But these holy shifts we should allow to happen every time we sit to practice, willing to shift our view of ourself, willingness to come to know ourself, because there really is no knowledge of God that is separated from knowledge of ourself. They're both intertwined, and we can't know one without knowing the other. We can't put our humanity aside and think, I will relate with the divine. It's not possible. That is part of magical thinking. And that is a lot of problems stem from that. So to be able to experience the expansive freedom that is meant to be accessed through our practice can only happen when we are willing to step out of that status quo, the place that's comfortable, the place that's secure, the place that's known. We can't know the grace of God. We can't know unconditionality if we remain offering ourselves in a conditioned way. So the more we can grab hold of that courage and leap off the ledge, even if we don't see that net below, we will know what being caught, what being held feels like. But until we jump, we will never know the holding of God. We will never know the holding capacity of each other. We will never know what it's like to be held. It requires risk. And that's how it is. It's set up. That's how it is. Arjuna, Draupadi. They're not just, they're real. They're real. And this process isn't going to happen just now in these beginning stages of our devotional life. This is the pattern of existence. To be willing to risk everything for love. That's when we will know. That's when we will know love. So there's a few things that we can do when we sit for our practice. Something that allows us to take those things that we are meant to do and shift it into a way of being. I don't do my practice. I am my practice. That is our goal. And Padmanabha Maharaj said this, it came to him one time in class, and it was so like really amazing that, a teacher teaches, and one who teaches becomes a teacher. One who cooks becomes a chef. One who prays becomes a prayer. That is what is held for us in potential in our practice, to become that practice, to become that offering in our practice. So when we sit to engage in whatever it is, or stand or walk or run, whatever, it's not limited to just certain things. But in the beginning, at least let's start with sitting. And so if we can create a sacred space somewhere that kind of serves as an udipana, as a stimulus to remind our mind and to get it set that what I am about to do is not ordinary. This is an extraordinary moment I am being invited to. This is sacredness. Eventually, hopefully, that will be transferred into everything we do is extraordinarily received, and everything becomes sacred. But we have to start somewhere. And that's, Thomas Merton had said that we find God in those ordinary moments. But that's another stage. It starts here. Let us start at least in this way, and then allow that with knowledge that it will flourish, and it is meant to step outside of those bounds. So to create a sacred space that triggers us into accepting the reality that this is an extraordinary moment, and I should expect extraordinary things to happen. Something that allows us to bring our conscious awareness to it. Then to kind of center in on the heart space, to draw in the energies that we have splayed out, the energy, the way that we go out into the world, to draw all of those things back in, draw our senses back into that heart space, and situate our view from that heart space from who am I? Tap into that. Who am I? Who am I in the eyes of God? To allow ourselves to just experience, I am a beloved of God. And from that embrace, allow ourselves to enter into practice. And when in that space, there's both infinity and intimacy simultaneously. When we hone in and experience from that heart space out. Notice our emotions. Allow ourselves to feel and to notice what comes up during this practice. Am I being resistant? Am I being angry? Am I sad? And what is it that these emotions are telling us? It's a language. Emotions are a language, and they have things to tell us. Where our wounds are, what we need to address, how we need to look at something. If I'm angry about something, that's pointing to a way that I need to approach something differently. So what is it that I'm angry about? How can I reconceive that? Do I need to reconceive that? Allow our emotions to bring us into the present moment, because that's what matters, is being present in our identity as much as we can, as being a beloved of God, of already belonging, of already being accepted. I'm not doing this to earn God's love. I'm doing this to show my love. I want to love. Let me connect here in this moment, in this live wire moment where we strip ourselves of all the insulation, those things we put in the way. We can also attend to our breath, focus on that, and watch for old scripts that come up. These ways that want to take us astray, that we allow ourselves, like in bowling, there's that gutter ball, there's the gutter. We allow our minds to go to the gutter, into the groove of old ways of being. And once you're in there, man, it's just so easy to go all the way to the end. But when we can notice that, oh my gosh, the ball is right on the very edge, it wants to go, but draw it back in. Another way is Father Thomas Keating, who I find a lot of nourishment and who's been a guide for me as well. He says that these thoughts are like boats. So allow the boats to go downstream of consciousness. Don't climb in the boat. Don't get in the boat and go down the stream with it. But acknowledge, yes, here they are. They're coming. And sometimes they do, again, like emotions, they can speak to us. What is coming? Why at this time? What's coming up? And then we can enter prayer, to be prayerful, all from this space of creating a sacred space, of entering our own sacred space within ourselves as acknowledging that we are beloved of God. And from this place, enter prayer. It's no longer a performative act. Bringing our consciousness into the present moment with a willingness to be changed. That is prayer in action. There's also a welcoming prayer that Father Richard has put in one of his books. I don't have it written here, but you can probably find it. And it's where we welcome whatever it is that comes. As Paula Darcy says in his, or said yesterday in his class, and says many, many times, it's tattooed on two of my walls in my house, that God comes to us as the events of our life. Everything is knocking. It's an opportunity. Everything is an opportunity to come closer to love. And again, when we aren't coming closer, then what is it that's getting in the way? We've heard many times that sin is a archery term, and it simply means missing the mark. But we aim at the mark. We have our arrow, we have our vision, our line of vision aimed at the mark. So why doesn't it go there? Again, it's all those things that we put in the way. They're substantial. They're the doubts, the illusions of being separate that veer us off course and away from love. The thought that we are not loved. The feeling that we don't belong, that we have to fit in, that I must bonsai myself in so many ways to be able to fit in. These are all illusory thoughts that prevent us from experiencing what is already there. Not that we need to create something, but it's something that is already there. We are already loved. We already do belong. And practice awareness of, of our thoughts, where they go, and around us, to learn from our environment. You know, Mahaprabhu learned from a piece of grass. And it's not like it was a special piece of grass with a whole bunch of stuff written on it. It was Mahaprabhu's own awareness of himself. And this is where self-knowledge comes into love of God. That it's because of his awareness of himself that he was able to see the lessons taught by the blade of grass. Humility, tolerance. There are untold lessons, millions of lessons right now where you are sitting. The environment is constantly speaking to us in ways of healing and ways of love. Because it is nothing but God here. So there is nothing but love, and built into it, embedded in every experience, in everything, is the opportunity to make that connection, to be healed. Like in nature, wherever there is a poisonous plant, very nearby, there is the remedy for it. So for all of our brokenness, for all the pain and suffering that we experience, there is a remedy, there is a healing of that will bring us to a greater love. And I don't really subscribe to that God creates bad things so that we can come closer to him. I think that's brutal. But I do think that in every bad thing, he is present there with the healing, with the ability to heal from whatever it is we experience. He is embedded there as love. Love is always there, regardless of what we have to experience. So to become aware of our environment and our internally and externally, and to see the ways of love. Before I became, well, basically before I felt loved, before I received unconditional love and allowed that to enter my heart, I had heard Srila Sridhar Maharaj, what he had said, that the environment is friendly. And I'll be completely honest with you. When a devotee would say that to me, it was usually when something bad happened. And they would say, oh, there was one particular devotee who'd say, oh, the environment is friendly. I'll tell you, I really just wanted to slap him because no, sorry, that is so not working for me. And now when somebody says the environment is friendly, I'm like, yes, it is. I have a different way to view the world, a different way to view suffering. I've been given a different set of eyes to see. And I'm not sure that devotee who was quoting that to me had those eyes. It was more weaponized against me. But when it is said by a person who embraces that reality, who lives like that, then it has a different effect. So yes, be aware of our environment and the beautiful messages that are coming, ways that we can heal and come closer to love of God. And that also includes coming closer to each other. Because again, just as we cannot know God until we know ourselves, we cannot love God until we love each other. It's a package deal. It's a package deal. And why? Because we're not separate from God. Each of you are his representative. You each hold a beautiful ray of his splendor, your own unique color in that rainbow. So if I want to embrace the rainbow, I want to embrace all of you. And if I don't want to embrace any of you, if there's one that I don't want to embrace, I cannot embrace that rainbow. So yes, to relate to each other as subject to subject and not subject to object. There are no objects. Whether they move or they don't move, whether they breathe or they don't breathe, is not an object. It's a subject. Everything is made of God's love. So another way to step into this magic of practice is voluntary displacement. Oh, my favorite. No, this class, voluntary displacement. But to me, it's worth the risk because I know there will be no growth for me if I am not willing to step into the arena. And that is what our practice is. It's the arena. It's where we work things out. It is not where we go when we're perfect. It's where we go when we're broken. And we work it out. Who am I? What is holding me back? What am I stuffing in that hole, in that illusion? How many false shelters am I holding on to? How many hands am I clutching my sorry as it's being ripped away? I won't know that magic of Krishna's loving protection and presence until I'm willing to let go with both hands. So voluntary displacement, it can be a simple thing too. One practice that we've started engaging in here in our ashram is every Ekadasi, which is, I believe, what Ekadasi was meant to do, was to displace us from our normalcy so that we can embrace a new angle of vision, a new way of being. It breaks the patterns, the monotony of ordinariness. Do something different on Ekadasi. Spend a certain amount of time. Go into nature. Be with yourself. Journal. Whatever. Whatever will displace you from your normal view of what is important, and allow something else to bubble up. Something that we don't even know what will happen. We don't even know, but allow it to make its presence known to us. To be receptive in those moments. So yeah, on Ekadasi, we sit outside around the fire. We created a sacred space, a little alcove in the woods with a fire ring, and we sit for hours. We don't normally do that. We don't ever do it actually any other time. Just that time. And it becomes very sacred and extraordinary. And I can tell you, extraordinary things happen when we allow ourselves to be present and open to what wants to come. Voluntary displacement is, I'll tell you, it's going to happen voluntarily or involuntarily, but it will happen. So the more we do it voluntarily, when those involuntary times come, we'll be more receptive to them. They will not knock us off our kilter. If we have died so many times, another death is nothing different. It's okay, there's nothing to fear. And another thing is that helps us change our perspective is to do something, even to change our appearance, right? For some of you, you might not have experienced this, who came at different times, but when I first met the devotees more than 40 years ago, the first thing we did was we changed your clothes. And you put some stuff on your face and you look different, and you start wearing your hair differently. And that really creates a shift. And it's like, it's a different identity. Who is this person? So it's those things kind of like jolt us to where we have become complacent about it. Now, for me, to jolt myself out of complacency, I don't wear those devotional clothes, and I don't put on tilak, and I don't wear my hair that certain way. And because the status, what was extraordinary becomes status quo. And that status quo again has to go. It has to be challenged for us to be able to grow beyond it. There's no becoming in the status quo. That is a dead end. So all of these things are meant to challenge our status quo. So those are a few things that came today. I have no idea if that served any of you. It certainly did me, and I appreciate you again being here and for giving me this space, the arena, and to grow into. So if anybody has anything to add or change, something to expand upon, there's a little bit of time. You can do that. And if not, that's perfect as well. Yes, my friend Rasangi, I can always count on you.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, yeah, I love this. And so many good points. I took notes. I'm sorry, I don't want to rush. Just don't take notes, but it really helps me, and I focus, and I can refer to them. So it just seems like you really pared it down. You shaved it all down to like a very very focused place, very that the way we show up, you know, naked means vulnerable and willing to change. It's like the name of the game or something. It's like, I mean, I got goosebumps just right now. That, and that's not easy, as we know, as you said. But what a meditation! What a meditation to just cherish and remember as we walk through life, which often feels like a freaking minefield and upsets and oh my gosh, from everywhere. There's things that are coming to catch us and take our focus and bring us down or sideways. So I love that you really pared it down to that kind of like axiom. I don't know if it's an axiom, but a place of showing up, being vulnerable or naked per se, and being willing to change.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's what I got out of it so far. So
Thank you so much for summarizing it so nicely. And yeah, the meditation, our life can be a walking meditation. It's not meant to just be a few moments a day when we have our hand in our bead bag, but a walking meditation. This is our life. This is our life. This is who we are. It's not what we do. We are devotees. We are lovers of God. We might be very small and we might be very immature, but nonetheless, we do have love for God in our own way that we want to grow and flame and to be consumed by. Yeah, thank you for your sense.
that aliveness, that current that's alive. I love that so much.
Yeah, and that aliveness comes from our willingness to be vulnerable. That's it all begins there. And another thing that came to me too is when you were speaking is that all of these things that come to us, you're saying like a minefield and so many things coming at us to distract us. It's actually those things that come to us that if we allow ourselves to go through them, that not that we'll come out on the other side of them, but that we will be transformed by them. Be willing to go through. It's the through that makes the change, not like a tunnel. And I'm on this side of the tunnel and my future's on that side of the tunnel. And I just need to get from point A to point B without any kind of change. That's magical thinking. It's not going through a tunnel of empty space. It's going through transformation. That's the through. And we will arrive on the other side having brought our future self with us in the through. It's not waiting for us on the other side. We don't have a suit hanging somewhere in some closet waiting when we leave this realm to go to another realm, and we're just going to step into that suit. It is all of the throughness that's between here and all of the present, the future that is present in this present moment. Everything will erupt from here. There is no future. Everything is resting on this very moment. All of the past is brought here, and all of the future is resting here. That is the power of now. Everything is here. So thanks for that, Ursangi. Gayatri, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, my love. I just really resonated with so much of what you said. I want to reflect back. I saw so many shaking heads, and yes, right from the heart. Like, I can't speak for everybody, of course, here, but we all resonate so much. Your description of this practice and prayer and process, really, of becoming. So I just wanted to honor you publicly here to say, right, you came here to die, but from my perspective, like, that's life gushing forth from you as you speak this truth. So I just wanted to honor you, honor that, honor those who are gathered here. You inspired me from the very beginning. I love poetry as well too, and I'm wondering if you wouldn't allow me just a very short poem to share right now that captures so much of what you had to say and reflect back again your way. I don't know if people are familiar with David White. He's a poet out of Ireland, one of our good colleagues, I think, from there as well, not able to be here today, but he's got this great poem called Everything is Waiting for You. Real short, bear with me. It says, your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone, as if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny hidden transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Surely, even you at times have felt the grand array, the swelling presence and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish even enables you, or the window latch grants you freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten you and invite you. And the tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you.
That's beautiful. We could have just read that and skipped the whole class.
No, not at all, right? It takes unpacking of all of this, and you did so beautifully today. So thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, there's a lot of things in that poem, but also I'm glad you brought that up about nature, because I've kind of noticed that too. Like, nature simply is itself. Like, you don't have a rose never tries to be a tulip. And the clouds never try to be something. Everything is fully itself, moving always towards its fullest bloom. And of course, there are other cycles, but it's always in process of being itself. So I think that's why nature really holds a lot of lessons for us about individuation and the fact that everything belongs in nature. If when one thing is missing, it goes out of whack, it's out of balance, it doesn't work, something's wrong. Bring back the wolves and restore balance. Yeah, so that is how it is for ourselves. Everything belongs. Everything belongs within us, between us. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay, anything else? Alrighty, my friends. Thank you very much. I'm seeing all these comments here now. Anyway, I'll check those over. So I'm going to
You're
end our.
still alive.